Hey Lang, it's Miss Arkelin. We are now moving on to day 2 of the rhetorical analysis refresh with the Madeline Albright prompt. Yesterday we talked about space and breaking down the rhetorical situation of a prompt or a text. And your homework was to read the full text and see what else you could add to the rhetorical situation for that text. Today, we are diving into your favorite topic, which is line of reasoning. It took us a while to figure line of reasoning out, but we definitely got there in try A. And the beauty of what actually happened in try B was for a lot of students, it clicked. And I think it clicked because by figuring out that this is something you actually do in your argumentation, whenever you have to write an argument, you're then able to see like, oh, other writers are doing this too, and I just have to analyze the choices that they're making. So to take us to try B, remember the big visual organizer that you would break down an argumentative prompt and plan it step by step by step. And one of the steps that you had to plan was this goofy little document that I made in Word docs that was super nerdy. But planning your line of reasoning. So what stepping stones do you need to cross in order to connect with your audience and convince them that your argument is worth considering? And you came up with which claim you wanted to put first, second, and last. And these were your stepping stones to reach your audience and convince them of your message and your purpose for them to believe you. So you learned how to do this yourself in an effective way. And in rhetorical analysis, it's just the backwards way of doing it, which is you're looking at Madeline Albright's text and you're figuring out what claims was she making and then why did she put them in that order? Why did she talk about this first, this second, and this last? And by understanding the line of reasoning and connecting it to the rhetorical situation, you're becoming a really, really, really strong rhetorical analyst. So, questions to ask about line of reasoning are as follows. Considering the speaker-audience relationship, why did they begin their argument the way that they did? How does the speaker build their argument to effectively achieve their purpose? How do they transition between their ideas? Why is it effective? And how is the ending of the argument impactful for this audience? And the words that we consistently told you to use in your rhetorical analysis FRQs was first, then, finally, therefore. And the goal was that you were working your way through the entire text. And by identifying a choice in each portion of the line of reasoning and connecting it back to the purpose and back to the rhetorical situation, that is when we were getting those 5s and 6s on FRQs, because it was clear that you understood the entire argument and not just these tiny little pieces of it. You knew how they were connected. So when identifying line of reasoning in another author's text, you want to be on the lookout for transitions. Are they changing subject or topic? Or even are they using transition words like then, now, when, but, however, rather? Where are places in the text that the author seems to be transitioning to a new topic? Odds are that's a transition to a new stage of their line of reasoning. And then in each of those sections, you analyze that section as one of your paragraphs of your FRQ. So the first thing they talk about is this. Here's the claim that they're making. Here's the choice that they made to make that claim. Here's why that's an effective choice for them to make here in the text as the speaker to this audience in this context. And that is why it's effective, right? So you're working way down the funnel and back up the funnel. All right, I always use that visual for my students. I don't know if it worked, but that's how I think of it. So first, then, finally, and therefore are words to help you remember to address all parts of the text and make your way through the entire thing. Right? And again, the question you just ask yourself is, why did they start with this? Why did they shift to this? Why did they end with this? So that's line of reasoning and the breakdown of line of reasoning. So we're going to look at that with the Madeline Albright piece. All right. So your task was to read this text and identify the rhetorical situation. I want you to pause this video right now, and I want you to see if you can identify the line of reasoning in this text, because it's important that you start to practice this skill again. So pause this video, and then I'll start talking through my analysis of the line of reasoning when you're done. Did you do it? Okay, I hope you did it. So what I'm going to be doing is just simply kind of scanning the piece that we're both looking at right now and showing you where I'm seeing signs of transition of topic. So Albright is talking to, once again, a women's college on graduation in 1997. She kind of begins this speech talking a lot about the U.S. and the different ways that the U.S. isn't satisfied and instead strives for something else. She uses a lot of repetition, like we could instead, right? And she does that quite a bit, talking about the different efforts that the US is making. So we could instead. Okay, so she's talking about perseverance, that the US could have done this thing and been satisfied with it. They could have settled for mediocrity. And instead, they went even further. They strived for more. So, as Secretary of State, she's first talking about the things that her and her current government are doing to persevere as representative of the United States. All right, so I'm seeing lots of conversation about foreign politics. She's still using the pronoun we here. So she's still talking about the US all throughout this beginning piece. And then suddenly she switches topics. And I see that here. In our lifetimes, we have seen enormous advances in the status of women. All right, so she was talking about foreign affairs and all the different things that the US was doing, and now she's focusing on women. So this is a big transition. And I also can immediately understand, based on the rhetorical situation, why she's moving down this funnel and moving from the world to specifically the female gender and the female's place in society. And she begins to talk about, she references Mount Holyoke, and she starts to talk about women around the world who have faced different challenges and persevered through them. So we're now moving from the whole world to just women around the world, okay? And we're becoming more specific. And so that is her next move in her line of reasoning. So you should be asking yourself, why does the Secretary of State start by talking about the world and the US and foreign affairs, and then transition specifically to women around the world? And that's part of your analysis. Moving on to the third move that she makes, she summarizes that these women have in common a determination to chart their own path, and by doing so, to alter for the better the course of their country or community. Each has suffered blows, but each has proceeded with courage. Each has persevered. And then the clue here that we're moving to another part of the line of reasoning is this pronoun, you. So she says you, and suddenly she is speaking directly to her audience. And she's now shifting to speaking to them directly and speaking about her purpose and how they are a part of it. So we've made our way down this funnel of speaking about the world, women, the women in the room. And you want to think about, why is that effective? Why is that inspiring or motivating when we think about who our speaker is and who the audience is? Okay. And this is when she then starts to make choices in this section that directly connect to the audience and her ultimate purpose. All right. So what I want you to do for your homework is this. We're kind of, again, working our way slowly through this process, and I'm modeling it for you. All right. So we have our steps in the line of reasoning. We have our first, then, and finally. Our therefore, of course, is going to happen at the end. And then what's that kind of final punch in the text? That may be something that you talk about in the conclusion of an FRQ if you want to. But again, we're looking for 3 moves mostly. But your homework tonight is to further define the line of reasoning in this prompt And then I want you to identify at least one specific choice that Albright is making in each portion of the line of reasoning, in each step. Okay, so there should be at least 3 choices that you identify and start making connections to why is she making this choice in her first step of her line of reasoning? Why is she making this second choice in her second step? And so on. And tomorrow we're going to talk through some choices that we're seeing and eventually write your rhetorical analysis paragraph. Okay, so that's your homework. If you have questions or anything, email your teacher and we will be happy to help you. I hope this reminds you of line of reasoning and that you're not, rejecting it too much. Really important. And that is it. All right, day 3 is tomorrow. See you then.